And we are live. See if I can adjust this a little bit. Much better. Hold up. This is where I have to be super duper careful because basically the microphone input is so important. So we are going to use everything that God has given us. We're going to continue with chapters 3 and 4. I'm going to use my other platform here. Let me lower this so they don't copyright strike it. It's very important that we present everything as professional as it can be. So, welcome back. I know we took a little break, it was necessary. Like I said, I'm actually going to be um, cooking while we're doing this. So, let's get right to it. So, please open up Wikipedia. Um, this was off for some reason. Let's try this again. Go to Wikipedia and type in Porsche. So let's go 959. No, let's go. It's 964. Um, Wiki. All right. So this is the continuation for the Turbo series. Let's go ahead, open up one more, and we're going to go to the related session. And on your simulator, look up 959. Um, I'm not sure. I think 959 was after, but maybe that's why. So let's go 996, 993. No, those are all modern. They changed the coding for them. So since they always have more than one code, it's easy to find them. Um, Specialty cars are a little bit different. Turbo S, Turbo 3.0, there we go. So, um, in the heading, we basically posted that from 964, you move on to 959. So let's get right to it. Official test start time, 2 minutes. You guys have 2 minutes to get in, and we are going to be traveling to the future, okay? Everybody get ready. So let's give an introduction to our new clients, to our new students. Our graduating class will be support staff for new incoming alumni. Together, we work together. We're able to share our experiences, etc., to build a better future for the day of tomorrow, right? So let's start with the Porsche 911 964 edition. The Porsche 964 is a model of the Porsche 911 sports car, manufactured and sold between 1989 and 1994. Designed by Benjamin Dimson through January 1986. It features significant styling revisions over previous 911 models, most prominently the more integrated bumpers. It was the first car to be offered with Porsche's Tiptronic automatic transmission and all-wheel drive as options. Name: Type 964, 964, or 964 is Porsche's internal code name for the 911 Carrera 2 and 911 Carrera 4 models. which were badged simply as Carrera 2 and Carrera 4. 964 is used by automotive publications and enthusiasts to distinguish them from other generations of the Carrera. The Carrera 2 and 4. The 964 was considered to be 85% new as compared to its predecessor, the Carrera 3.2. The first 964s available in 1989 were all-wheel drive equipped Carrera 4 models. Porsche added the rear-wheel drive Carrera 2 variant to the range in 1990. Both variants were available as a coupe, Targa, or Cabriolet. The 964 Carrera was the last generation sold with the traditional removable Targa roof until the 2011 991, 993, 996, and 997 versions used instead a complex glass roof greenhouse system. A new naturally aspirated engine called the M64 was used for 964 models with a flat 6 displacement of 3.6 liters. Porsche substantially revised the suspension, replacing torsion bars with coil springs and shock absorbers. Power steering and ABS brakes were added to the 911 for the first time. Both were standard. The exterior bumpers and fog lamps became flush with the car for better aerodynamics. A new electric rear spoiler raised at speeds above 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, and lowered down flush with the rear engine lid at lower speeds. A revised interior features standard dual airbags beginning in the late 1989 for all North American production 1990 cars. A new automatic climate control system provided improved heating and cooling. Revised instrumentation housed a large set of warning lights that were tied into the car's central warming system, alerting the driver to a possible problem or malfunction. Engine. Engine design. Air slash oil cooled, horizontally opposed, dry sump lubricated, rear mounted. Engine displacement 3,600 cc's, 220 cubic inches. Cylinders 6. Bore and stroke 100 by 76.4 millimeters, 3.94 by 3.01 inches. Compression ratio 11:3 to 1. Fuel ignition, electronic fuel injection, DME controller with twin spark with knock regulation. Crankshaft, forged, 7 main bearings. Block and heads, aluminum alloy. Valve train, single overhead cam, SOHC. One per bank. Double chain drive. Power 250 PS. 184 kilowatts, 247 brake horsepower at 6,100 RPM, torque 310 newton meters, 229 pound-feet of torque at 4,800 RPM, engine speed limitation 6,700. Let's take a quick pause. Remember that for today's finals, we are reviewing the company as an investment in our well diversified portfolio. Please type in Honda J Series engine. There's a few stipulations here. There's a few things we're going to dive further into. It's very interesting to me, very peculiar that we already established that, you know, Porsche was Honda before Honda. So we know now with definitive proof, this is where Honda got their inspiration. That would be for another PhD, but we will mention it towards the end of this one. Please open up Honda J engine. I also want you, before I forget, to consider the time frame. Before we go into the Honda J series motor, let's talk about generations. Let's go back to the initial concept designer, Benjamin Dimson. So the car was in production and it was sold to the public from 1989 and 1994. So make sure, okay. Um, it featured significant styling revisions over previous 911 models. So what is the model before this generation? It's the module that we just finished. The predecessor is the 930. And remember that these prototypes were finished by 1986. So the final styling was already available. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head, but here we have a date of January 1986. So let us return to, was it, hold on. Let's go to the 930. We know we have a year of 1986. There we go. This is going to give us the dates that we need from an investment standpoint. How would we market this type of investment? When you think about our portfolio, this is how we're able to put our own opportunities, our own deals together. So the 930 was in production overall from 75 to 89, but we know we have a fully running, ready for production prototype by January 1986. That gives us a cycle of 5 years plus six, that's 11-year cycle. Now, even though, let's say in their business plan, maybe they had a estimate of 10 years, they were able to go an extra year, and that was able to make the difference because now, after those 10 years, which would be 75 to 85, you still have one more year to finish the prototype, which makes complete sense why the production vehicle would not only be released that same year, but would continue to 1989. So the prototype was 3 years ahead of its time because this car was available for that time frame. So this one design was pretty much untouched until that pivotal moment, which could have been the initial 36 months or the last portion, meaning the last 36 months of that investment. So from an administration standpoint, what can we say about the output of the company? We have here two great examples. As a matter of fact, I'm going to open up both modules so I can have them side by side on the simulator. Now, I'm already intrigued by the J Series engine as soon as I hear that the 964 had a single overhead cam, chain driven design, which I know for a fact is a Honda attribute or feature found in many generations of the J Series engine. Another thing that piques my mind and my interest is the horsepower rating. I know from the NSX prototype and working on projects like that those initial prototype power plants were in the 200 plus horsepower range. Remember that we identified Honda six-cylinder motors in the C family of engines as small as 2 liters, meaning 1,999 cubic centimeters. So this would only help us in the continuing engineering of my company's prototype. So, for all of our alumni, our new clients, you're all business partners. Please take notes. So, we understand that the production cycle was a huge success. We know that there were two different versions, and then 36 months would make sense for them to design, engineer, and produce the prototype because the first generation of that prototype, it took them another 3 years to perfect it. Hence why you have a generation kind of in between. That makes perfect sense. So, how would I look at that? If this was my company and I'm looking at balance sheets, I would say that the car was released to the market 3 years ahead of its time, but 3 years before it was ready to hit the market. The company got very lucky that the car was a success. And as soon as they changed the production in the assembly line, this is where you get the influx of being able to sell over 18,000 vehicles. And remember that we used that yesterday as an example. Remember that we finished yesterday with the slant nose. So now let us continue. Another interesting thing, we already established that the 911 and the 356 before it basically were a wide body Volkswagen Beetle. We know they used all the components. But notice how the first 930 Turbo, chassis number one, was not on a wide body. And also remember for my design students that their goal was to sculpt the body and the shape of Jessica Rabbit. Who's Jessica Rabbit? Marilyn Monroe. Very thin waist, very wide hips. So if you notice on the 930 and above, all of the turbo models, which at the time were called Carrera turbos, but we understand the difference, the whale tail, they called it the T-table tail, whatever. The wide body is what made it exactly what it is because the vehicle needed that to handle even better. In other words, the handling was so amazing and it will require so much from the driver to be able to administrate that by making it wide body, it kind of tames the car down. It doesn't mean that you're still not going to have turbo lag. And when the turbo kicks in, you're going to have instant power. But at least you can have control during the anticipation for the turbo boost to kick in. Let us continue moving on from 930 to 964. So we know that Benjamin Dimson was able to work on the vehicle. We know that this version, which is the latest version, was finished 3 years before. We know that it took a series of batches of cars to get to the goal of 18,000 units. So this vehicle has a shorter run. It's only from 89 to 94, but now the turbocharged version is a more sophisticated vehicle, more sophisticated design. The integration of the bumpers, the turning signals, the built in foam caps that are for European specs. Um, Basically, the built in diffusers to the front bumper, the small indentation right above the powertrain for the windshield wiper, the fact that it came convertible and it came with a sunroof. You can tell money was an issue because the whale tail, in other words, the spoiler, which is really what it is, with a kind of extensive gurney flap, is actually made out of a compound. And I personally would have preferred it to be aluminum or an alloy, which eventually they at least gave you that impression with the 997 911 twin turbo S, which we'll get to that vehicle first, but we have to segue into 959. So let's learn more about this powertrain. The Porsche 964 is a model of the Porsche 911 sports car manufactured and sold between 1989 and 1994. Designed by Benjamin Dimson through January 1986, it features significant styling revisions over previous 911 models, most prominently the more integrated bumpers. It was the first car to be offered with Porsche's Tiptronic automatic transmission and all-wheel drive. Let's take a quick moment and let's find out what is Tiptronic. Manumatic. The modern usage of the automotive term manumatic denotes an automatic transmission that allows the driver to select a specific gear, typically using paddle shifters, steering wheel mounted push buttons, or plus and minus controls on the gear selector. Right? So let me see if we can do this properly. Okay. So basically, in the 1950s, the Automotive Products Company in the United Kingdom produced an automated clutch system for automobiles called the Manumatic. This system was installed in cars with a manual transmission, allowing them to be driven without needing to use a clutch pedal. Now, let's see if it gives us the specific one, and it does not. So, let us continue. So basically, is the early versions of the paddle shifters in the NSX, the automatic versions had a tab that you would basically flick with your fingertips. It wasn't a shifter or a paddle per se. It was is more like a little switchblade. And then on the Tiptronic vehicles, it was a plus and minus control that you could find in the steering wheel. So basically, this is where we are as far as the design. We understand the powertrain. We know that it comes in two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive versions. We also learned that the Carrera 2 has four-wheel steering. Thus far, we haven't heard that for the Carrera 4. But let us continue. The 964 was considered to be 85% new as compared to its predecessor, the Carrera 3.2. The first 964s available in 1989 were all-wheel drive, equipped Carrera 4 models. Porsche added the rear-wheel drive Carrera, a variant to the range in 1990. Both variants were available as a coupe, Targa, or cabriolet. The 964 Carrera was the last generation sold with the traditional removable Targa roof until the 2001, 2011 991, 993, 996, and 997 versions used instead a complex glass roof greenhouse system. A new naturally aspirated engine called the M64 was used for 1964 models. 964 models with a flat 6 displacement of 3.6 liters. Porsche substantially revised the suspension, replacing torsion bars with coil springs and shock absorbers. Power steering and ABS brakes were added to the 911 for the first time. Both were standard. The exterior bumpers and fog lamps became flush with the car for better aerodynamics. A new electric rear spoiler raised at speeds above 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers. So notice the need, because of the shape, at 50 miles per hour or above, to have additional downforce. That's how smooth that shape is moving through the oxygen. And lowered down flush with the rear engine lid at lower speeds. A revised interior featured standard dual airbags beginning in the late 1980s for all North America production 1990 cars. A new automatic climate control system provided improved heating and cooling. Revised instrumentation housed a large set of warning lights that were tied into the car's central warning system, alerting the driver to a possible problem or malfunction. Engine. Now, we already went over the engine specs, but we're going to focus very quickly on performance. Top speed, 260 kilometers per hour, 162 miles an hour. 159 with the Tiptronic. So the Tiptronic is only 3 miles per hour of a lower top speed. 0 to 60, 5.5 with the manual, 6.2 with the Tiptronic. So Tiptronic was zero point 0.7 seconds slower, correct? zero point 0.7 seconds. Quarter mile, 13.6 for the Carrera 2, 14.0 for the Tiptronic, and 14.1 for the Carrera 4. So let's attribute the additional zero point 0.5 seconds due to the additional weight of the all-wheel drivetrain. Coefficient of drag 0.32. People were impressed with the 998 water-cooled version, which is one of my favorite Porsche designs. But the coefficient of drag was between 0.31 and 0.32, which is excellent. Um, just to put that into the perspective. So let's focus on powertrain. Let's go back to the engine and let's see if we can pull the initial engine itself. So let's go M30 and let's go all the way down to M64. So let's see if we can remember. So, oh, okay. So it doesn't have, it should give me the option to select all of the engines. But let's see what we can find comparable. So this engine is from 1963 and beyond. It says single overhead cam, right? Yeah, we're not going to be able to find this like this. You know why? Because it's giving us the specs, but it's not giving us all the specifics, right? So output information is there, but variations between generations are not available. So let's just focus on this. We'll go with the oldest year, 1989 or 1990. We're going to go with the basic engine, which starts at 247 horsepower. Let's go Honda J engine, and let's start with a 3.6 liter. But let's see if we can find something smaller that has equal amount of power. What is our horsepower goal? Well, our horsepower goal is like our goal as far as performance, our products, our services, what we're presenting to investors, how quickly can they have their return on investment. 247 horsepower, single overhead cam, 6,100 RPM. So the J25 starts the J series, and that comes in at 200 horsepower. That's actually a stroker motor. It's detuned as far as air and fuel, but I believe that engine can produce a lot more, which we know that it can. Let's continue. J30. What's the power output? 210. J30A1, J30A4, 242. We're getting close with a shorter, smaller, bore and stroke out of the motor, but also smaller displacement. So 242, 244 with the J30A5. Let us keep going. So we already know with a 3 liter, we're within a 3 horsepower uh, penalty, you could say. If we're designing a chassis, this is an opportunity for us to re-strengthen the chassis by adding additional bracing, for example. Um, Hopefully in 3 different locations where the difference is only 1 pound per brake horsepower, right? J30A signifies Japanese market. European market has no numbers afterwards. 3 liter, oh 08, I'm sorry, oh 04 to oh 08, 86 by 86, so overly squared 3.39 by 3.39, perfect stroke, 247 horsepower, 218 pound-feet of torque. Let's see what is the torque. So 229 versus 218. No, we need more torque. We need an engine that's torqueier. 211, 244, 7,200 RPM. J38.5 is a higher revolution. J30AC is the new one, and it's just overpowered for this particular design. We are still designing 12-cylinder flagships. We have approval for 4-cylinder design, and I have an additional approval for an additional piston layout. So that could be unlimited class. Let's go to J30Y1, and it's 257 horsepower. Just the engine. I believe this is hybrid because the combined power is 321, torque is 289 combined, but I need the figures before hybridization. It says 2017 to 2020 Acura MDX, 2013 to 18 Acura RDX in China. For the MDX is only the Sport Hybrid. Nope, I have to continue. Displacement 3 liter, JNA1, 255, which beats, horsepower rating by 8 horsepower, 232 pound-feet of torque. We may have found our engine. 232. So the torque is 229. Do we have anything better than 229? So this one, it has 3 liters, so it's a smaller engine, but still produces 3 extra pound-feet of torque. If I was building a race car, this would be my engine. I would be as close to the tolerances of the design, the downforce, the stability, the way that the suspension is adjusted, whatever the regulations are, I'm going to fit the formula to the best of my capacity. So this is perfect because now we're no longer paying a penalty as far as horsepower. Right now, we have an added bonus where we can run a turbo because we're running a 3 liter motor. Advantage us. Overly square design, 3.39 by 3.39. So it's a more balanced engine. The bore and stroke of the Porsche engine is just bored out pistons because it's 3.94 by 3.01. So we still have a difference of 0.38. And let me see, let's use our hyper scientific calculator. Let's get the exact figure for the engine calibration. So once you have your hyper scientific, let's balance everything out. So we're looking at 3.94. Let's subtract 3.39. Let's double check before we press enter. 3.39 would be correct. So it's a difference of 0.55. So it's just a bored out piston. That's all it is. But that's also what takes it above the 3.5 liter class all the way to a 3.6. But it's okay because we gained um, from 247 horsepower. We have an additional 8 horsepower. We have an additional 3 pound-feet of torque. And we're doing it at 4,500 RPM versus 4,800 RPM. So the engine is actually a slouch by comparison to the JNA1. Let us continue. What else do we have? We're going to go all the way up to 3.5, 3.6, which I already know J35A8 is going to blow it out the water. So J32A displaces 3,210 cubic centimeters, 3.2 liters, 195.9 cubic inches, and is a single overhead VTEC design. Its bore and stroke is 89 millimeters by 86, 3.50 by 3.39. So this is an equivalent to us boring the pistons out. What's the output? 225 horsepower, 5,600 RPM, 217 pound-feet of torque, which we wouldn't be able to use it because it's outside of regulations. 4,700 RPM for the J32A1, with the J32A2 raising output to 260 horsepower, 194 kilowatts at 6,200 RPM, and 232 pound-feet of torque at 3,500 to 5,500 RPM. So it would be a driver's race. That's pretty much even. But I like the fact that I can go force induction. Plus, I have additional weight savings, and I have less packaging space necessary to complete the car. It has a more aggressive camshaft, more free flowing intake and exhaust, so it's ported. Two-stage intake manifold produces a 33.55 horsepower increase over the J32A1. So that's a contender right there. Let us continue. J32, single overhead cam, V6, horsepower 270 from the A3, and 238 pound-feet of torque. That's a difference of what? 9 pound-feet of torque. And 50, no, 47, 50, 27 extra horsepower. Okay, J35. Mind you, we're still not paying a penalty. We're going force induction. I could use a J35 and go force induction. So what do we have here? We have 3.5 liters, 3,471 cubic centimeters. Bore and stroke 89 by 93. So this one is increased bore and stroke power. Premium 210, regular 205. Torque, oh, that's A1. No. 240, 240, J35 A4, 265 A5, 255 A6, 255 A7 with 250 pound-feet of torque, J35 A8, 286 horsepower, 256 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM. it's game over. 89 by 93, so same dimensions, 350 by 3.66. And we still have room if we wanted to bore it out a little bit more. But these are just examples. Okay. So now let us continue. So we go all the way through. And the reason why we wanted to use it as a business example, right? The reason why we want to change the standpoint, right, is because I want you to think like the proprietor of this corporation. What is the company's performance? What are they doing? We're not talking about performance on the racetrack. We're talking technological advancements, product placement within the market, market advantages, unique and unfair advantages of the design that was a gift from God because it's a wide body Beetle. They stretched out the wheelbase 7 inches to add two jump seats, and it created a design that defies the law of gravity. That can only come from God. If they planned to do that, they wouldn't have been as effective. So let's move on to the 959. Why? Because we're focused on the Black Ops program. This is the Delta Force of automotive engineering, the prototypes. Who are these designers? Who are these test drivers? So now listen to this. Porsche 959. The Porsche 959 is a sports car manufactured by German automobile manufacturer Porsche from 1986 to 1993. First, as a Group B rally car, and later as a road legal production car designed to satisfy FIA homologation regulations requiring at least 200 units be sold. So we're not going to go with the top speed, which they've lowered from 201 to 197, then 211, whatever. We're not going down that rabbit hole because we've done that plenty of times. Okay, 2.8 liters, twin turbocharged flat six, power output from 450 and above. About 500 is the average I've heard. 600 I've heard more than that. But let's go past the sequential turbochargers. Now, this design is dual overhead cam. So shout out to them. It was produced by Carroceria Bauer, not at the Porsche factory in Zuffenhausen. So the attention to quality was bananas. Okay. Mm, if desired, more power was available. Okay, we covered that. So let's see if we can find the actual prototype information. All right. Okay. This could help. Okay. Development, history, and overview. Development of the 959, originally called the Gruppe B, started in 1981. Remember, 930 Turbo is prototype ready to go for 89 in 1986. So this is 5 years before. Let us travel through time together, okay? Shortly after, the company's then new managing director, Peter Schultz, took his office. Porsche's chief engineer at the time, Helmuth Bott, approached Schultz with some ideas about the Porsche 911, or more aptly, a new one. Bott knew that the company needed a sports car that they could continue to rely on for years to come and that could be developed as time went on. Okay. We may have to do the design from the outside and we'll go to aerodynamics for that. But the power plant, we already understand pretty much everything dealing with that power plant. But let's continue. Porsche also developed the car's aerodynamics, which were designed to increase stability, as was the automatic ride height adjustment that became available on the road car. 0.31 coefficient of drag. Now, here, I have the images of the prototype, but it's not telling me what years the prototypes were in development. So it says here, for example, like we can do a design analysis, for the wide body. You see the extension on the rear quarters. If you cut that rear quarter, that's a Volkswagen Beetle right there. And if you know what you're doing, you could build this out of a Beetle. Again, the demonstration prototypes look a lot better than, you know, the running prototype. But overall, now we have the glasses of the future. So what are we really looking at here? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 930. This is why the 930 was so good. And you know, the 930 is the reason why the 959 is so good. And you as a collector have to accept the truth. Doesn't mean don't collect a 930 or 964 and a 959, but understand that they're all part of the same program. Um, this is amazing. I can stare at this design in the poster for forever, for all eternity. This is the most beautiful design. So now it was very important for me to disclose some of the things that we can learn from the J Series engine because it was such an amazing um, design. It came at the perfect time, and it's an amazing thing. Like there's just so many different versions. There's so many different applications. It's 60 degrees V6. Everybody's going for that right now. It's a lot of things that we can learn. So now that we understand what was going on in the world, we know that Honda could have learned their best in the 80s, but it wasn't until 96 that they had the sweet science down for the six-cylinder motor. And you know this is an amazing machine any way that you can think about it. I'm trying to see if I can find. Okay, this is 996. I think I gotta go 997. Nope, 997 was the change in the code. So still wrong. Hold on. Let me go 997 and go 991. Nope. Let's try 996, which is one of the codes, but it's not the complete code. And still this one, 993. There we go, 993. Okay. 94, 98 is the first gen. So let's go to the actual powertrain because now we know that that was the best years for the engine. So we have a M64, which is the 3.6. Let me see. Single overhead cam, 3.6. And then we have the M64 air cooled. Oh, you know what? There could be a difference. Let me see. It actually gives you the code here. So 93, 95, 95, 96, and 98. 3.6 liter. So again, we will be able to stroke our motor. 282, which we have a 355 horsepower version we could use. This is still an amazing um, success as far as design. And it gives us the opportunity to be able to make better decisions when we're building our own vehicles, especially when we're running, prototype class unlimited. This is still my very favorite power plant. And let me just go back to J3588 because I think that's one of the best examples. 286 brake horsepower at 6,200 RPM, 256 pound-feet of torque at 5,000. Compression ratio 1101, and the 964 had a compression ratio of 1131. That's as close as you're going to get. Now, mind you, by the time that, uh, what is it, 993 comes about, what's the horsepower rating? You know what I'm saying? Technical improvements, transmission variants. Now, let's go to powertrain. 20% parts, so 80% new, which is also a decrease of 85% improvement over the previous generation. You see small details like that. When you own the company, when you own the investment, you understand. We're diving into the bottom line of what Porsche was doing back in these years from an investment standpoint. How were they able to penetrate the market and introduce their products and service and remain dominant, not having the fastest top speed vehicle, etc., by offering technology and cars that could cheat in very unique, stylish ways, like the all-wheel drive, the wing that pops open, the vent on the Turbo S model, uh, making the actual rear wing one component and then painting it body color style, making it big enough to where it still does its job. That's a lot of things that, as an entrepreneur, with a very well and trained eye, you will be able to understand these things and pick these things up. Why? Because it's only going to make your repertoire in business and in your personal life, because you're going to have that perspective. So now we see that dreams come true and hard work pays off, but it's a lot of hard work. Picture yourself as part of the Porsche family, knowing that you want to bring something amazing to the market, knowing that this is your first time, that your only experience was working with the Volkswagen Group and during the battle of the wars during those times, and still using that as an inspiration to build every step of the way. What makes us as entrepreneurs any different? We are not um, free of not having to deal with those challenges. We're not exempt from having to deal with those challenges. That is the balance of life. Life is going to be ups and downs and lefts and rights and forwards and backwards and inwards and out. That's life. We're all on this journey, right? This is about the pursuit of happiness. Understanding that, you know, if you can appreciate a Porsche, you can appreciate a Honda, because they're both amazing in their own right. And both companies, both products, both services can be inspired by each other and affect the market in a completely different way. This is exceptional inspiration and motivation for me. I can take the whole front end of a 993 and create a whole new car. I can take the rear end and create a whole new car. I can take the center section of this car and create a whole new car. I can put a Honda power plant or a Toyota power plant or a Nissan power plant or a Mitsubishi power plant or a Mazda power plant. I get to choose now. I don't have to pay a premium with an exotic vehicle. Why? Because I can build my own. I'm a coach builder. This is a different part of life and a different part of collecting. And these are the type of people that I would want representing me and my company. Porsche has had amazing wins and victories and is recognized eternally all over the world, but nothing like this generation of Porsche. These Carreras, these Turbos, these Targas, these Cabriolets, these Spiders will forever be special, and the last of a generation, the last of the air cooled 911s. I love to put this car on the rig and put it on the simulator. You can learn so much just from the aerodynamic styling, going back and forth between the different designs. What did they preserve? What did they keep? What did they take away? Um, for the Spider, they could have made the roof profile way shorter, but they still wanted to give you that lineage, that familiarity. Um, you wouldn't even recognize or realize at those times that the actual spoiler that pops up, it's actually the same size of the turbo spoiler on the Carrera, which was considered the base model car. So they understood the emotions of the consumer. which is something that I understand exceptionally well. And therefore, I can only have people that understand and have these commonalities, these personality traits, these insights. I busted my ass many, many years to educate myself to be able to hold uh, a large group of people's attentions in order to deliver my message, my products, my services, my franchise, my brand, because it has never been more important than in today's time to own your brand. And I'm literally a franchise player. I don't view my career, my investments, anything that's related to me in a different way. And the same maverick vigor that I would have representing any other investment portfolio or company is the same attribute that I look for the people that want to integrate and become part of my company. I've worked very, very hard for many, many years. And now it's time to enjoy everything. So I can enjoy the beautiful designs of this generation of Porsche. I can buy one modified if I want to. I can buy one factory specs if I want to. I can enjoy every single version. I don't have to compromise between two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive or cabriolet or coupe or targa or turbo. Um, I'm happy to say that I'm at a different interval of life. And now that I can have all of them, it's very hard to even choose one. You know, it's very hard to choose one. This twin turbo S model silver with the tan interior, it's a nice consolation prize. After all the years of hard work, I closed this deal. This is one of those cars that's going to be delivered to my living room, to my office. This car will be in my house. Um, I'll probably put this on a rotation assembly, but it's a truly beautiful machine. Again, even with marketing, it allows me to penetrate the inner cores and circles of everything dealing with entertainment because I'm a true car collector and I'm a real car guy. And our community is, interstellar, basically. People that love cars for different reasons. Music brings us together, but so does the automobile. And everything dealing with the sculptures, the arts, the designs, the shapes, the textures, the way that things are manufactured, it all correlates back to even my production of my NFTs. So I leave you guys with that. I hope that this review has brought excellent value to each and every single one of you. And tune back in. We will be continuing. This is the ending of chapter 3 and chapter 4. Thank you very much, and we'll see you right back. Have a blessed day. God bless. I love all of y'all. You guys are all my daily inspiration.